much, Mr. Toastmaster. Fellow Toastmasters and esteemed guests, have you ever heard the phrase, don't ever talk about politics, religion, or sex? I absolutely agree with that statement. It never goes well whenever you talk about those things. But today, I'm going to open up that political can of worms. Why? Because, as you mentioned, I noticed there's a lot of overlap between the way we discuss politics and nutrition, specifically things like dieting. And I don't think there's any better way to begin this discussion than by giving you guys a story. So in 2015, there was a nutrition conference that was held. At this conference, there was a debate that was happening between someone by the name of Gary Taubes, who is a science writer, has published numerous books about carbohydrates, sugar, and how they're bad for you, going to give you all these bad health conditions. And then we have Alan Aragon, who is an actual nutrition researcher. He does a lot of research in this field, so he knows his stuff. What it came down to was at the end of this speech, or at the end of this debate, Alan asked Gary if there were evidence to show that carbohydrates, sugar, didn't cause any of these adverse health conditions. So if there were scientific data, facts to show that it didn't cause these problems, would you change your mind? He said no. He said no. In the face of data and facts, things you really can't argue with, he still wouldn't change his mind that sugar and carbs don't cause adverse health effects. What does this tell you about Gary? To me, it tells us that he's what's called a zealot. A zealot is someone who is uncompromising, fanatical, and tries to get other people to adopt the ideas and principles that they follow. Now, unfortunately, there's a lot of Gary Taubeses and zealots in the nutrition and dieting space, especially when it comes to talking about things like how we talk about different dieting strategies. So we have a lot of people who will ascribe to the ketogenic diet, and we have a lot of people who will ascribe to the high-carb diet. Research has shown that both of these things work. However, these people are always butting heads and arguing with each other, saying, no, my way is the right way, you're wrong, you're stupid, whatever, insert derogatory phrase here. But we see this with politics, don't we? Right? We have Republicans, we have Democrats, arguing with each other over the ideas that they have. That's the parallel that I'm talking about here. But why are we like this? Why do we struggle so much to just accept other people's ideas? I think it comes down to one thing. There's a concept in psychology known as the confirmation bias. And what the confirmation bias says, essentially, is you believe what you want to believe. You believe what you want to believe. If you ever heard the term echo chamber, it's kind of that same way. You only listen to news outlets and content that already agrees with your bias. And also, I think it comes down to our innate desire to want to be right all the time, because it feels so good to be right, doesn't it? Oh my God, it feels great. Especially when you prove someone wrong, you're like, oh God, you're so dumb, and I'm so much smarter. And so that's what I think it is. But the issue with this here is we don't really advance as a society by being right. Obviously, it feels good. You can stroke your ego a bit. What does that do for greater good, the collective of us known as humanity? So I think instead of wanting to be right, we should be searching for the truth. And there are some instances, especially with such subjective things that we discuss in politics and nutrition, that we can't really be true about just because it's a difference of opinion. But in those cases, I think we need to be focused more than in that case on understanding why people have these different opinions and ideas about certain topics. So how do we do this? I think there are three things that we can do. We can listen, we can keep an open mind, and we can try to understand where someone else is coming from. Because if you listen with an open mind, you can really maybe pick up on something that they say that makes you think, I didn't think about the ketogenic diet, or I didn't think about abortion in that way. That's interesting. I'm not saying everyone has to change their mind, or everyone has to think about the same thing, but I think we need to be doing a better job of how we go about having these conversations in order to reach more productive solutions. Because right now, all I see is just people yelling over each other and not really listening. And then they don't keep an open mind, which just shuts everybody out. So we're all arguing with each other, but we're not listening. And then we'll also have issues with understanding where the other person's coming from. We just kind of want to get our point across, and then we tune out until it's our turn to talk again. We're not trying to figure out where the other person's coming from, where their background kind of lent them to have those opinions and ideas that they have based on their experiences. So to summarize, listen, keep an open mind, and try to understand where the other person's coming from, because that's really the only way that we're going to advance as a society, not arguing and talking over each other. Mr. Toastmaster.